Mia awoke in her small, decaying house, the remnants of a wild night still echoing through her mind like a distant, unsettling thunder. Sunlight filtered through the grimy window, illuminating rooms filled with the smell of stale alcohol and remnants of the previous evening's party. As she rubbed her eyes, she noticed a series of strange markings that spiraled around her wrists and forearms, black and inky like the night she had just escaped. Mia frowned, confusion settling deep in her chest as she tried to recall how she had acquired them, but memories were curiously vague, cloaked in a fog of disorientation. Unease gnawed at her as she wandered through the dimly lit house, feeling as if she were being watched by unseen eyes lurking in the shadows. Every creak of the floorboards sent shivers down her spine. Images from the night before flashed before her, a sense of laughter, dancing, and a sinister energy that now felt palpable. Suddenly, a voice, barely a whisper but chillingly clear, slipped into her ear like a serpent. "Don't go to sleep." The breathless warning sent a jolt of fear coursing through her veins, and Mia's heart began to race. She froze, looking around her empty home, feeling the weight of silence that pressed down like a heavy fog. That voice lingered, wrapping around her thoughts as dark uncertainty settled over her. What had she stumbled into? She gripped her arms tightly, the markings burning against her skin as realization began to seep in. This was no ordinary hangover, and her ordinary life felt anything but safe. As she tried to shake off the chill crawling up her spine, Mia understood with a dreadful clarity that something had changed overnight, and the shadows in her home were no longer just figments of her imagination. Mia felt the hangover of last night's revelry still clinging to her like a heavy fog as she slipped into her worn hoodie and joggers, barely dragging herself out of bed. Though the sun shone brightly outside her window, casting soft, golden rays that should have felt warm and comforting, an unsettling chill lingered in the corners of her mind. Her fingers brushed against the strange markings etched into her skin, patterns that hadn't been there before she went to sleep, twisting and curling like shadowy tendrils. Confused and alarmed, she wondered what really happened during her blackout. Desperate for clarity, Mia sought out her best friend Sam, dragging her into a world that was increasingly plagued by strange occurrences and blurry memories. Sam, ever the steadfast companion, listened intently as Mia recounted her nightmarish experiences. Together, they decided to confront the shadows lurking in Mia's dreams, believing that they might unravel the mystery behind the haunting marks on her skin. Their investigation led them deep into the murky history of Mia's home, revealing the tragic tale of a woman named Eliza who had once lived there. Eliza's story was filled with loss and sorrow, eventually driving her to madness. As Mia and Sam explored dusty attics and peeling walls, dark whispers seemed to flicker in the air, drawing them deeper into the past and awakening something malignant. That night, Mia fell into an uneasy slumber, only to find herself trapped in a lucid nightmare. In this waking dream, Eliza materialized, her ghostly visage twisted with grief and rage. Eliza's insistent whispers echoed around Mia, taunting her with memories of betrayal and despair. Even in the depths of sleep, Mia could hardly shake the feeling of being watched, trapped in the suffocating grasp of shadows and sorrow. Each encounter with Eliza grew more intense, the spectral figure weaving a web of torment that drew from Mia's own insecurities and fears. Suddenly, Mia jolted awake, her scream piercing the night's silence. Terrified, she glanced around her dimly lit room, only to find it eerily transformed. The walls adorned with frantic, ghastly drawings, images might have been sketched by Eliza's trembling hands, depicting her own descent into madness. Panic surged through Mia as she realized that her dreams were not just nightmares. They were entwined with Eliza's anguished spirit. Shaken to her core, Mia's heart raced as she felt the weight of the world closing in on her. The darkness was not just seeking her, it was creeping into her very essence. Plagued by questions and haunted by the chilling likeness of her nightmares, Mia silently vowed to uncover the truth. Yet deep down, she feared the terrifying prospect that Eliza's madness would consume her too. As the echo of Eliza's voice lingered in the air, "Help me." The episode closed with an unsettling sense of dread, leaving viewers wondering just how far Mia would go to confront this haunting truth. As the sun rose on yet another dreary day in the small, decaying town, Mia felt the creeping sensation of dread wrapping around her heart like a cold hand. Shadows seemed to cling to the corners of her vision, and the strange markings on her skin pulsed with subtle warmth, a constant reminder of the horror she could not fully understand. Distancing herself from her best friend, Sam, Mia navigated her days like a ghost, whispering fears to herself, convinced that even the wallpaper was now conspiring against her. It started with a single text that flickered onto her phone, a message from an unknown number that read, "Trust no one." Who could it be? She thought of Sam, but paranoia twisted her thoughts, causing her to question their friendship. The weight of isolation pushed Mia deeper into a rabbit hole of anxiety. Doors creaked open with no one there to nudge them. Shadows darted just beyond her sight, and whenever she glanced in her bathroom mirror, unfamiliar faces stared back at her with hollow eyes. Was that a dark smudge lurking in her periphery, or was her mind playing cruel tricks? Each night, the whispers returned, swirling inside her thoughts as sleep became a refuge for the very nightmares she feared. Sam, worried for her friend, tried reaching out, her messages filled with concern, but Mia felt an invisible barrier grow between them. As the signal dwindled, the world outside her home faded into a bleak stillness, amplifying the eerie sounds of her surroundings. The rustle of a newspaper blown by the wind, or the distant cawing of a crow sent shivers coursing through her. Each new day brought escalating occurrences. The sound of footsteps trailing her through empty rooms, the skittering of something unseen in the attic. It was getting harder to differentiate reality from the vivid horrors of her imagination. She stood at the edge of her sanity, teetering on the brink of an abyss where nothing felt safe. Meanwhile, desperately seeking answers, Sam began to investigate on her own. She scoured the internet for stories about other unexplainable happenings within their town and stumbled onto a forum discussing the house Mia lived in. These whispered tales spoke of madness, of families driven to the brink by haunted walls, parallels too haunting to ignore. Sam knew she had to act before it was too late. Determined to pull Mia back from the clutches of darkness, she resolved to confront whatever was creeping into her friend's life. She would have to face the shadows head-on, despite the growing sense of dread that warned her against delving too deep. As twilight fell, casting long shadows across the town, Mia sat curled on the edge of her bed, trembling. The unknown number sent another message, "You're not alone." She glanced at her phone with wide eyes, heart racing, realizing that whatever awaited her next was already within reach. And somewhere in the dark corners of her mind, a chilling whisper echoed, "Trust no one." In the dim light of the local library, the scent of old paper and dust hung in the air as Sam pored over dusty tomes, searching for answers that might help her best friend, Mia. With each page turned, she stumbled upon the tragic tale of Eliza, a woman driven to madness by loss and grief. Deep within the story, Sam discovered whispers of a ritual that once banished Eliza's spirit from the realm, a flickering hope hidden in the shadows of despair. Meanwhile, the weight of paranoia pressed down upon Mia, who had begun to isolate herself, plagued by the shadows that seemed to linger closer than ever before. Her heart raced, and her mind danced on the precipice of insanity as ominous thoughts swirled, feeding a growing rift between the two friends. One evening, their strained friendship reached a breaking point. Mia stood in her room, staring into the mirror with haunted eyes that seemed not to belong to her. She whispered a soft plea for help, the look on her face a tapestry of vulnerability wrapped around fear. Sam felt an uneasy chill as she noticed Mia's handwriting on the walls, incoherent and frantic, some even speaking in Eliza's voice. Convinced that Eliza's dark influence was tightening its grip, Sam rushed over to her house, armed with the knowledge of the ritual to save her. They decided to perform the incantation together once the night fell, desperate for relief from the looming dread. Yet, with each passing moment, Mia's demeanor shifted. She was no longer the friend Sam knew. Was it truly Mia standing before her, or had the darkness already begun to consume her? Doubt gnawed at Sam as she faced the ghost before her, torn between loyalty and the terrifying possibility that the entity had already taken hold of her friend. In the flickering candlelight, the air grew thick with tension, and as Mia spoke, her eyes reflected a flicker of Eliza's pain. The episode drew to a close with a chilling silence that enveloped the room, both friends standing on the precipice of a decision that could seal their fates. As they prepared for the ritual, a whisper echoed around them, low and haunting, sending shivers down their spines. "Help me." The words shattered the stillness, and both girls froze, knowing in that moment the true darkness was drawing nearer, their connection to Eliza growing deeper than they could have ever prepared for. The air crackled with tension in the small town of Eldritch Hollow as dusk descended, casting long shadows that tangled with the whispers of restless spirits. Mia stood on the threshold of her home, the weight of her growing obsession hanging heavily on her shoulders. The atmosphere was thick with impending storm. Thunder rolled in the distance, approaching like an omen as dark clouds gathered above. The townsfolk bustled about, their laughter echoing through the streets, a stark contrast to the oppressive loneliness that suffocated Mia. Tonight was a town gathering, an event meant to foster community spirit, yet Mia felt an inexplicable pull towards something far more sinister. Her gaze drifted to a dilapidated house at the edge of town, a crumbling ruin that seemed almost alive, its presence throbbing with the legacy of Eliza, the woman whose ghost haunted her dreams. She turned back to the gathering, where familiar faces traded gossip under flickering lanterns. The laughter felt distant, while the whispers in her mind grew louder, unnerving reminders of the nightmares plaguing her sleep. Sam, her best friend and anchor, stood nearby, fidgeting with concern etched deep into her features. Despite the festive atmosphere, she couldn't ignore the changes in Mia, her increasing withdrawal and the shadows looming behind her eyes. As townsfolk shared ghost stories and thrilled at the legend of Eliza, Sam's resolve hardened. She had to reach Mia before it was too late. When she approached her, the urgency in her voice was palpable. "Mia, please, you need to let this go. The house, it's not safe." But Mia brushed off Sam's concern, swept away by an overpowering fascination. The whispers of the ruined house called to her, weaving tales of desperation and love that mirrored her own lonely heart. As the winds howled and darkness enveloped the town, the rift between Mia and Sam deepened, ignited by their conflicting paths, one seeking escape, the other desperate to save her friend. The emotional storm crescendoed when Mia finally made her decision. Stepping away from the flickering lights of the gathering, she resolved to seek the truth lurking within the haunted walls of Eliza's home. Ignoring Sam's protest, she ventured into the night, leaving behind concerned whispers and frantic calls. The thunder cracked fiercely overhead, echoing her tumultuous thoughts as she approached the crumbling structure at the outskirts of town, the heart of Eliza's anguish. As lightning splintered the sky, illuminating the house with an eerie glow, Mia took a deep breath, feeling the pull of curiosity and dread intertwine within her. With each step toward the door, she sensed the ominous presence waiting within, the manifestation of her fears and Eliza's sorrow, and no matter how much she wished to close her eyes to the truth, she knew that it was waiting to be confronted, pleading for release. The storm outside raged on, reflecting the chaos brewing within Mia's soul, foreshadowing the inevitable clash between light and dark that awaited her inside. Mia stepped cautiously into the dilapidated old house, the air thick with an unsettling stillness that seemed to wrap around her like a shroud. Each creaking floorboard beneath her feet echoed with the ghosts of the past, and an unsettling dread tingled at the back of her mind. She had come to confront the spirit of Eliza, the tragic figure whose sorrow and rage had seeped into her own consciousness. As she moved deeper into the darkened rooms, remnants of the once beautiful home revealed themselves. Peeling wallpaper adorned with faded floral patterns, and dust-covered furniture that had long been abandoned. In the dim light, shadows danced on the walls as if the house itself were alive, breathing and waiting. In the heart of the house, Mia found an old diary resting on a rickety table, its cover worn and frayed. When she opened it, she was confronted by Eliza's swirling prose, filled with accounts of love, betrayal, and the spiraling madness that had consumed her. As she read, Mia felt a strange connection to Eliza, as if each word pulled at the threads of her own insecurities, revealing not just the woman's despair but her own. The phrases swam before her eyes, whispering those twisted truths she feared most. Memories of her own life intertwined with Eliza's, painting a chilling portrait of how grief could shape one's reality. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Eliza's spirit emerged, a sorrowful specter that wrapped itself around Mia, engulfing her in a haze of emotions that felt both familiar and terrifying. "Help me," Mia uttered, staring into the apparition's hollow eyes, searching for the echo of a lost soul that mirrored her own. As Eliza's memories flooded her mind, colored with torment, Mia became ensnared within the pages of the diary, spiraling down into the depths of Eliza's past. Time twisted around her, and she relived the moments of love and betrayal that drove Eliza to madness. The memories consumed Mia, chipping away at her sanity as she grappled with Eliza's anguish. Faces of loved ones twisted into monstrous caricatures of betrayal, laughter turned to screams. Once bright moments dimmed into nothingness. Caught in this vision, Mia felt herself losing grip on her own identity, teetering on the brink of despair. "No," she cried out, fighting against the pull of Eliza's dark legacy. But the shadows grew stronger, wrapping around her mind like an iron clasp. Desperately, Mia struggled to reclaim her reality. With each frantic heartbeat, she clawed for the surface, aware that every moment spent in Eliza's memories tightened the spirit's hold on her soul. "You must understand." Eliza's voice echoed softly, a mixture of sorrow and malice. "You are more connected to me than you think." As Eliza's presence intensified, Mia finally realized the cruel symmetry of their stories, understanding that Eliza's sadness had somehow become her own. In an ultimate moment of reckoning, Mia closed her eyes, trying to find the strength to face the fear. She could feel Eliza's rage and vulnerability surging through her, the weight of their intertwined destinies pressing hard against her heart. Would she succumb to the darkness, or could she break free? As the shadows swirled around her, time felt suspended, and it was in that moment she understood. The key to her liberation lay within her own heart. But the path would demand immense sacrifice, revealing the detrimental price of confronting the deepest manifestations of grief. As the scene faded, Mia realized that she was on a precipice where the consequences of her choice would alter not only her fate, but the fate of the very town she called home. The sun hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows over the small, decaying town that Mia and Sam called home. An overwhelming sense of dread filled the air as Sam searched for her best friend, the nagging sensation that something had gone terribly wrong gnawing at her insides. She couldn't shake the feeling that Mia was slipping away, consumed by the darkness that loomed over her like a gathering storm. As Sam wandered through the streets, she caught fleeting glimpses of Eliza, those ghostly images of the woman who had once lived and lost, now haunting the corners of her consciousness, flitting between reality and nightmare. Sam's determination solidified as she pieced together the fragments of Eliza's tragic tale, learning of the madness that had descended upon the woman after a series of betrayals. With each discovery, she felt a growing urgency to save Mia, driven by the hope that together they could confront the malevolent spirit that ensnared her friend. Taking a deep breath, Sam followed the trail of whispers that led her deeper into the town and back to Mia. convinced that their friendship was the key to unlocking this horror. Just as dusk enveloped the landscape, Sam found Mia, but she wasn't the same girl she once knew. Her eyes reflected a turmoil of emotions: fear, anger, and something darker. As they stood face to face, an electric tension filled the space between them, the atmosphere thick with dread. Sam realized that they were not just fighting a ghost. They were battling the very essence of despair that threatened to dismantle everything they held dear. But Mia, in an eerie trance, seemed to oscillate between reality and the shadows, whispering Eliza's name with a haunted expression as the air crackled with a sinister energy. In a moment of clarity, Sam could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching them, and she steeled herself for the ritual that would bind them together in this fight against the encroaching darkness. With trembling hands, they positioned themselves, ready to confront the entities that had woven their destinies tighter than they had ever imagined. As they commenced the incantation, the shadows pulsed in rhythm with their voices, and a chilling wind swept through, thickening the air with the scent of despair. Suddenly, an anguished scream reverberated through the night, echoing from the depths of Eliza's sadness and madness. Shadows twisted and contorted, separating Mia from Sam in a dizzying flash, as the two girls found themselves intertwined in a nightmarish struggle. Light and darkness clashed violently around them, tearing at the fabric of reality itself. When the dust settled, the furious vortex of energy enveloped them, dragging them both towards an abyss that threatened to swallow them whole. Sam fought desperately to reach Mia, but the distance seemed insurmountable. In that moment, they saw each other's eyes reflecting their fears and the overwhelming sorrow of what they might lose. "Scream for me, Mia," Sam pleaded, her voice rising above the clamor. "Let go of her. She cannot own you." As the apparition swirled around them, Mia's gaze turned wild, caught between Eliza's desperation and her own identity. Duplicitous whispers filled her ears, urging her to give in to the madness, to embrace the chaos. But deep within, a spark of defiance ignited. It was in this turbulent moment that Mia understood the truth. They were more than just pawns in a tragic story. They were fierce warriors facing an ancient darkness together. With newfound strength, Mia broke free from Eliza's grasp, reaching back towards Sam, a tether of hope amidst the chaotic storm. But just as they connected, a pulse of dark energy erupted from Eliza, knocking them apart and fracturing the very reality around them. The battle was not over. It was merely the beginning of a confrontation that would shape their fates and determine who would prevail: their own friendship or the sinister force that sought to shatter them both. As the screen faded to black, the echoes of their struggle hung in the air, a haunting reminder that darkness could not simply be expelled, but rather faced with unwavering courage, even when it threatened to consume them whole. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the small, decaying town as Mia and Sam stood at the edge of a deepening abyss. After the ritual they believed would bring peace, an unsettling stillness had settled around them, a stillness that felt heavy, foreboding. Whispers echoed in the night air, carrying tales of dread and despair. As the town began to experience strange occurrences, streetlights flickered ominously, shadows flitted unexpectedly across walls, and the haunting sound of children's laughter turned into a chorus of cries. Mia felt a chill run down her spine as she glanced at the sky, dark clouds swirling ominously as if the heavens themselves were mourning. "Something is wrong," she murmured, her heart pounding in her chest. She could sense an ancient darkness entwined with the spirit of Eliza, something far more sinister than either of them had anticipated. As paranoia seeped into the hearts of the townsfolk, reports of missing persons began to flood in, each disappearance echoing a glimpse of the chaos lurking just beyond their perception. Determined to understand the source of this malevolence, Mia and Sam delved into their separate inquiries. Together, they unearthed dark family secrets that tied their fates to that of Eliza. As they pieced together the mysteries surrounding the ghostly woman and the chaos enveloping the town, they discovered that this ancient force thrived on fear and grief, feeding off the very emotions that had plagued Eliza in life. With newfound clarity and a stronger bond forged through trials endured, they committed to confronting the shadow that loomed over them. However, as they neared the heart of the darkness, fractures began to form in their friendship. Sam sensed a change in Mia, an unsettling determination that hinted at a deeper darkness simmering within her. Mia's nightmares grew more vivid, visions of Eliza's sorrow flooding her mind, entwining her existence, blurring the lines between her memories and those of the ghost. One night, torn between fear and responsibility, Mia felt an overwhelming compulsion to return to the old house where it all began. Desperation filled her heart. She had to confront both Eliza's spirit and the dark force unleashed within her. But as she arrived, a storm began to brew, lightning crackling in the distance as the air charged with tension. The house loomed before her, its facade twisted and grotesque, echoing Eliza's torment. Mia's resolve hardened as she stepped inside. There, in the dim light, the walls pulsed with energy. The very essence of Eliza seemed to resonate within them. The whispers turned into screams, the notes of anguish filling her ears, as Eliza's spirit materialized, radiating despair. Struggling to hold onto her identity, Mia grappled with the realization that this darkness was feeding on her fears, twisting her thoughts and memories. As their confrontation reached its peak, a chilling silence fell over the house, and the air crackled with a different kind of energy. Mia could feel the curtain between realities thinning, the walls of their world and the shadowy domain of Eliza blurring together. With a heart full of dread, Mia called out to Sam, pleading for her to help, only to arrive at a devastating realization. She was alone. Suddenly, as if the very ground beneath her could sense her fear, Mia watched in horror as Sam disappeared into the void surrounding them, drawn into the darkness they had dared to confront. The weight of the loss crashed over Mia like a tidal wave. She felt an overwhelming sense of isolation in that moment. With her friend vanished and the darkness closing in, the time for confrontation had arrived. Mia would not allow herself to drown in this abyss alone. In the thickening shadows, she mustered all her courage, standing firm against the suffocating wave of despair. The voice of Eliza echoed around her, a bitter symphony of madness and sorrow that merged with her very essence. Mia felt the ancient darkness beckoning, a ravenous force anticipating her surrender. But as the storm raged outside, she vowed to fight, clenching her fists and steeling her heart against the tide, refusing to let the darkness consume her. In that moment, Mia understood. She must awaken the power that lay dormant within her, to cast light on the shadows threatening to claim her world. And though it seemed that despair was imminent, she would defy it, not just for herself, but for Sam, for the town, and for the memory of a life untouched by madness. The battle for their very souls hung on the precipice, and in her heart, Mia knew that she had to awaken before the darkness claimed them, and it was now or never. Mia stood at the edge of her darkest nightmare, the air heavy with the weight of her fears. After Sam's disappearance, an unsettling emptiness gnawed at her heart, leaving her to confront an inescapable truth. With trembling hands, she took a deep breath and plunged deeper into the murky recesses of her subconscious, hoping to uncover the secrets behind Eliza's tragic fate. In the darkness, visions swirled, a chaotic montage of sorrowful eyes and whispered betrayals that echoed through the fabric of her being. Each memory felt like a blade cutting deeper, revealing Eliza's madness stemming from the very betrayal of those she once loved. As Mia explored the shadows of Eliza's past, the sorrow woven into the fabric of her memories slowly unraveled her own insecurities. She recalled the moments of self-doubt that had plagued her, the painful feelings of inadequacy that fueled her torment. With each revelation, Mia felt a surge of power stirring within her, as if the darkness that sought to consume her was also a part of her resolve. Clarity emerged from the depths. She was not just a victim, but could become a warrior against the very shadows she feared. Through Eliza's memories, Mia discerned a thread that connected their souls, an unbroken lineage of grief and resentment woven through the years. As the truth crystallized, she understood that to confront the darkness, she must face her own demons and reckon with the sacrifices required to break the cycle of despair. A chilling rage coursed through her veins, and she felt the echoes of Eliza's pain resonate within her spirit, igniting a fire of determination. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, and Mia was met with a vengeful wave of energy that emanated from the screaming spirits trapped in Eliza's rage. The ground trembled beneath her feet as she stood defiantly against the onslaught, ready to reclaim her power. But as Eliza's spirit unleashed its fury, Mia realized it wasn't just about fighting the darkness, it was about understanding it. The energy crackled around her, threatening to snuff out her light completely. With newfound conviction, Mia stepped forward, embracing the storm, knowing that only by confronting her fears could she hope to free both herself and Eliza's tortured soul. At that pivotal moment, a terrifying wave of energy surged outward, crashing against Mia like a torrential storm and alighting a fire in her heart. She faced the dark manifestations head-on, understanding the stakes of her battle. Yet just as she felt the tug of victory, the memory of Sam's laugh echoed in her mind, a reminder of the bond they had forged. The realization hit her with monumental weight. Eliza's rage might consume them both unless she could harness the raw power of her connection to Sam. But as the darkness swirled, a fierce pulse of energy erupted, releasing a tide of anguished spirits into the air. As cloudy remnants of the past began to dissolve, Mia felt the urgency of her courageous stand against the looming darkness. However, just as hope flickered to life within her soul, a surge of Eliza's rage rocketed through the peace she sought to establish, threatening to extinguish it entirely. Mia's heart raced as shadows flickered ominously around her, and she knew she was standing on the precipice of a terrible choice that would either save her from the darkness or imprison her in the shadows of her ancestry forever. In that decisive moment, filled with anguish, power, and desperation, Mia reached inward, determined to summon every ounce of her strength. With one final cry, she opened her heart to release the pent-up energy of her sorrow combined with Eliza's, hoping to forge a bond of understanding rather than fury. However, the wave of rage crashed down, threatening to pull her down into its depths, as Eliza's spirit screeched through the storm, desperate to claim her legacy. Just then, Mia realized the labyrinth of choices stretched before her, whether to surrender to the darkness or fight with all she had for Sam, the town, and her own freedom. In the darkness, Eliza's rage unleashed an overpowering blast of energy that rippled through the air, igniting the atmosphere with a blinding light. It felt as though the very fabric of reality was being torn asunder. Mia's heart pounded, and she found herself teetering on the edge between hope and despair, as sacrifice chimed loudly with the toll of an inevitable fate. The episode closed with Eliza's wrath releasing a wave of dark energy, threatening to consume everything in its path, thrusting Mia into the tumultuous battle between light and shadow, a battle that would ultimately shape not just their destinies, but the very future of the town itself. As the night deepened around the town of Crestwood, an unsettling tension filled the air. Mia, heart racing and palms sweaty, stood at the edge of the old house where the final confrontation awaited. The walls seemed to thrum with a restless energy, echoing the pain of lost love and madness that had haunted her for so long. With Sam now missing, Mia felt an overwhelming weight of solitude. The darkness that enveloped her was strong and menacing. She could sense Eliza's presence swirling around her like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Inside, shadows danced with malicious intent, and Mia took a steadying breath, fiercely pushing back her mounting fear. She had learned so much about herself, about the legacy inherited from Eliza, and now she had to face it head-on. The whispers of the past filled her mind, memories flooding back as she closed her eyes for a fleeting moment, picturing all the moments that had led her here. It wasn't just a spirit she faced. It was the embodiment of every dark thought, every self-doubt that had ever plagued her. Eliza appeared before her, a translucent figure twisted with sorrow, pain, and a rage born from betrayal. "You think you can banish me?" the specter snarled, her voice echoing through the room like an angry wind. "You are nothing without me." As Eliza lunged, Mia felt the full weight of her emotions crash against her. A tidal wave of fear and heartbreak threatened to engulf her. But deep within, a flicker of strength ignited. She remembered Sam's unwavering friendship, the laughter and tears that had built their bond, and that gave her the courage she needed. "Mia!" Sam's voice suddenly cut through the chaos, and Mia opened her eyes to see her friend standing at the threshold, fear mixing with determination. "Together!" Sam yelled, joining Mia in a protective stance, their hands clasped tightly. The connection between them became a beacon of hope, a light pushing back against the encroaching darkness. They began to chant the words of the ritual, calling upon the forces of light to banish Eliza's spirit and the ancient malevolence intertwined with it. But as the powerful incantation reached its crescendo, a blinding flash erupted in the room, and the spectral energy twisted violently. Mia felt a sharp pain in her chest, like a vine of despair wrapping around her heart. And with a heart-wrenching split, a dark force broke free from Eliza, seeking to consume everything in its path. The air crackled with electric energy. Horror became palpable as the fabric of reality warped around them. In a moment of reckoning, the confrontation shifted. The darkness bore down upon them, a storm of rage and unresolved grief. Mia, fueled by love for Sam, understood that the fight wasn't just Eliza's. It was an eternal battle within her own soul, balancing light against darkness. In a selfless decision, she stepped forward, determined to shield Sam from the chaos that sought to tear them apart. "I'll hold it back. Save yourself," she screamed, feeling the tendrils of the dark energy wrap around her, pulling her into a void of memories filled with Eliza's anguish. With a final grasp of despair, Mia closed her eyes, and in that moment, she surrendered herself for the chance to save her friend and the town. The last thing she felt was a surge of intangible energy enveloping her, then silence. When Mia awoke, it was in a vast, empty space, a beautiful yet haunting void lit by stars that felt both comforting and isolating. She slowly came to terms with her sacrifice. She was no longer trapped in her nightmares, but neither was she entirely free. As her eyes adjusted, the sensation of Eliza's essence lingered, intertwining with her own, creating a jarring duality that would never release its grip. But then, a chilling twist stole the air from her lungs. A vision of innocence emerged. A small child with wide, bright eyes sat in the twilight haze, innocently coloring on the floor with crayons. Mia's heart dropped as she glimpsed the drawings the child created on the paper and noticed the same strange markings she had found etched on her skin. They glowed eerily in the faint light, a haunting reminder that the cycle of terror was far from over. As the child giggled, oblivious to the dark history attached to her art, Mia felt a deep pit of dread form in her stomach. Hope and horror mingled as she realized that even with her sacrifice, the shadows of Eliza remained lurking, waiting to rise again. The screen faded to black, and the story of Mia, Sam, and the haunted town left the viewers with a shiver, questioning the true nature of freedom, legacy, and the shadows that linger beyond the veil.